In the endless galaxy, many alien empires ruled with pride and arrogance. They were old, powerful, and filled with the belief that only ancient species deserved respect. When humanity first entered the stage, the galaxy laughed. To the older races, humans were children who had just learned how to walk among the stars. They said humans were curious, reckless, and fragile, like fireflies trying to shine in the middle of storms. The Galactic Council allowed them to join, but only as a gesture of pity, not respect. In those halls filled with thousands of alien voices, humans were always ignored, their votes dismissed, their voices treated as noise. Humanity tried it first. They argued for fair trade, for equal rights, for space to grow. They built colonies on distant planets and dreamed of joining the galaxy as equals. But every time they asked for something, they were blocked. Trade routes were restricted. Resources were denied. Promises were broken. Slowly, the message became clear. The galaxy did not want humanity to rise. To the aliens, humans were a species meant to stay small, meant to stay weak. Still, humanity endured. They worked harder, traded with those who would listen, and continued to send ships across the stars. And then, one day, everything changed. A great colony ship, carrying over 50,000 men, women, and children, left Earth's orbit. It was not a warship, not a threat. It carried farmers, workers, scientists, and families who only dreamed of a new home under a new sun. But the ship never arrived. News came that an alien fleet had intercepted it near the border of their space. The fleet destroyed the human vessel, reducing it to burning fragments scattered across the void. When a human ambassador demanded justice, the alien council smiled coldly and called an accident. They said the human ship was too close to a military zone. They said it was a mistake. No punishment was given. No apology was made. The galaxy laughed, and humanity went silent. In the streets of Earth's cities, anger burned. In the colonies across the stars, grief turned to steel. For the first time in human history, every voice united under one thought. This was no accident. They had been tested. They had been mocked. And they had been pushed too far. Yet the aliens did not understand what they had done. They believed humans were weak and would remain weak. They believed silence meant surrender. They believed laughter was victory. But the silence of humanity was not surrender. It was the silence before the storm. While alien diplomats continued to sneer, human leaders disappeared from the spotlight. While alien spies watched, they saw humans gathering resources, building factories, mining rare elements on dangerous worlds. The galaxy thought nothing of it. Let them work, the alien rulers said. They can build all they want. It will not matter. They are too young, too fragile, too small. But in the hearts of humanity, something had shifted. No longer did they seek approval from the Galactic Council. No longer did they beg for seats at alien tables. Humanity had been reminded of who they were. A species that had faced extinction on its own world again and again, and had always survived. A species that had fought wars, crossed oceans, climbed mountains, and turned darkness into fire. A species that had been underestimated since the beginning of time. And now, across the silent halls of Earth's governments, a single question spread. What if the galaxy had made its final mistake? In the shadows, fleets began to move. In secret shipyards, designs never seen before began to take shape. Pilots trained harder. Soldiers stood ready. Scientists worked without sleep. Humanity had been insulted, humiliated, and wounded. But they were not broken. They were preparing. The galaxy could not see it, but it could feel it. A quiet tension spread across alien worlds. Merchants whispered that human trade routes were growing cold. Captains spoke of human patrols that no longer bowed to alien ships. Generals wondered why so many human warships were missing from their charts. The old empires still laughed, but their laughter carried cracks. They remembered something from their own histories, a lesson many had forgotten. Never push a desperate species. For when desperation turns to resolve, there is no force in the galaxy that can hold it back. And so the galaxy waited, blind to what was coming. They thought they had broken humanity. But in truth, They had only forged them. They thought silence was weakness. But silence was the moment when humanity sharpened its blade. And when the silence finally ended, the galaxy would understand what it meant to push humans past their limit. For now, Earth stood quiet, watching, planning, waiting. The galaxy believed this silence was the sound of defeat. But it was not. It was the sound of a storm rising. And storms, once born, cannot be stopped. The galaxy grew used to human silence. Weeks passed, then months, and the aliens thought the storm had ended. They believed humanity had accepted its place, broken under the weight of ancient power. Alien leaders stood tall in the Galactic Council, speaking with arrogance, laughing at the empty chairs where human voices once tried to speak. To them, the silence was victory. But they were wrong. Humanity was not broken. Humanity was building. In secret stations hidden on the edge of explored space, massive shipyards glowed in silence, assembling machines unlike anything seen before. Asteroids, once ignored, became sites of furious mining, stripped of every rare element the rocks could offer. Convoys of freighters moved without announcement, guarded by fleets that did not appear on alien records. They carried metals, crystals, and strange technologies back to Earth, where the greatest minds of the species worked behind closed doors. Spies tried to follow. Alien scouts drifted near human space, curious and suspicious, but they found little. What they saw appeared normal: trade ships moving supplies, colonies producing food, fleets patrolling borders. Yet something about the pattern was different. The humans were no longer scattered. Their movements carried order. Their actions carried discipline. Aliens reported back that humans were quieter than ever before, but those who had studied wars knew the truth. Silence was not peace. Silence was preparation. On Earth, entire nations once divided by politics or culture stood side by side. Humanity had always argued, always fought within itself, but now there was no argument left. The colony ship destroyed by the alien fleet had ended all doubt. Humanity was one. Every scientist, every engineer, every soldier carried the same fire in their chest. They were no longer reaching for approval. They were no longer begging for recognition. They were preparing for survival. In deep underground labs, human scientists tested weapons never seen before. They studied alien technology, but instead of copying it, they twisted it, changed it, rebuilt it into something new. Where aliens had followed the same methods for thousands of years, humanity broke the rules, ignoring traditions that held others back. They asked dangerous questions. They tested impossible theories. And sometimes they succeeded. A new type of engine whispered to life in a hidden hangar. A new kind of shield burned against weapons that should have pierced it. Weapons capable of vanishing entire fleets were designed not on alien templates, but on human imagination. Soldiers trained in silence, learning to fight not only on planets, but in the darkness of space itself. Every man and woman who wore the uniform knew what was coming. They had lost families, friends, and children in the destroyed colony ship. They no longer thought of defense. They thought of vengeance. The galaxy had not noticed, or perhaps it had chosen not to notice. Alien councils laughed at reports of strange human activities. When a spy told them that humans were building shipyards too large for their population, they called it a bluff. When another reported that humans were gathering more resources than their colonies required, they said it was waste. And when word came that human fleets no longer requested permission to cross alien space, but simply passed through, the aliens dismissed it as arrogance. They did not see the pattern. They did not see the change. Or perhaps they refused to believe it. Old empires grow blind, and the galaxy was old. Humanity was young, but that youth was no weakness. It was hunger. It was drive. And it was growing sharper every day. Across alien taverns and markets, rumors began to spread. Merchants whispered of human convoys that traveled with strange escort ships, ships that did not match any known registry. Captains claimed they had seen human vessels vanish from scanners as if swallowed by shadows. Some said entire patrols had gone missing near human borders, ships that never returned, leaving no trace. Fear began to spread in the outer worlds. Small alien colonies stopped trading with humans, too afraid of what might happen. Some called them paranoid, but others remembered history. They remembered how quickly young species could rise when pushed too far. And yet, the great alien empires still believed they were safe. They said, humanity cannot match us. They are too small. They are too fragile. But behind human silence, preparations grew. Every day, new fleets took shape. Every day, more weapons were tested. Every day, humanity became stronger. They were not rushing. They were patient. They let the galaxy laugh, because they knew the galaxy's laughter would not last forever. And in that silence, a lesson was being written, a lesson that would soon be carved into the stars. The galaxy thought it had broken humanity, but the truth was far darker. It had awakened them. And when humanity awakens, it does not stop. The storm was still gathering, but its edges were visible now, rolling across the void. A storm born not of rage alone, but of unity, of determination, of survival. Humanity did not speak. They prepared, and preparation was far more dangerous than any words. Soon, the galaxy would understand that the silence of humanity was not the end. It was only the beginning. The galaxy remained blind, still laughing at the silence of humanity, still convinced that nothing would come from the so-called children of the stars. But silence does not last forever. It began with whispers. A border patrol from a proud alien empire confronted a small human station built near the edge of disputed space. The aliens had done this many times before. They demanded tribute, insulted the humans, and threatened to seize the station. In the past, humanity might have argued, might have sent a desperate appeal to the Galactic Council. But this time was different. The humans did not argue. They did not beg. The alien fleet sent a warning shot across the station's shields. Moments later, their signals vanished. Not a single alien ship returned. At first, the Empire thought it was a technical mistake. Scanners malfunction. Engines fail. But when rescue ships were sent, they too disappeared. No wreckage, no distress calls, nothing but empty space where entire fleets had once been. The news spread like fire. Rumors moved faster than light across the galaxy. Merchants whispered in fear. The humans, they said. The humans have a weapon. The council dismissed it as nonsense. Impossible, they declared. Humans cannot create such power. They are too young, too foolish. And yet, within weeks, it happened again. Another alien fleet, larger than the first, moved near human space, confident in their power. They sent threats, demanded obedience, and promised to teach the humans respect. But the same fate awaited them. One moment the fleet was alive, proud, roaring with arrogance, and the next moment it was gone. Silence. No signals. No survivors. This time, the whispers grew louder. Captains who once mocked humans now avoided their borders. Traders altered their maps to avoid human-controlled routes. Fear crawled into the hearts of even the proudest empires. For the first time, the galaxy began to wonder, what are the humans hiding? In the chambers of the Galactic Council, voices rose in anger. Alien leaders accused humanity of using forbidden weapons. They demanded answers. But when human ambassadors finally spoke, their voices were calm, cold, and steady. They said only this: "You pushed us past the limit. We will not ask again." Then they walked out, leaving the council in stunned silence. The galaxy had grown used to weak humans begging for respect, pleading for fairness. This new silence was something different. It was not weakness. It was a warning, and the galaxy began to tremble. The alien empires sent scouts, desperate to understand. Some reported seeing strange shapes in the dark, ships that did not appear on sensors until it was too late. Others spoke of weapons that tore through shields as if they were paper. None of them returned twice. The galaxy had never seen war like this, because humanity was not playing by the old rules. They did not defend. They did not wait. They hunted. Border systems that once bullied humanity suddenly grew quiet. The alien fleets that had threatened their colonies vanished without a trace. Planets that had mocked humans found their skies empty, their fleets missing, and still no one understood how. Theories spread. Some said humans had found a new kind of energy. Others believed they had made a pact with an ancient, hidden race. A few whispered the darkest theory of all, that humans had not invented a weapon, but had become one. The fear grew, and yet pride is a heavy chain. The older empires could not admit their fear. They told their people that humans were still weak, that the disappearances were accidents, that no young race could ever challenge them. But behind their speeches, their eyes betrayed doubt. Behind their arrogance, their hands shook, for they had seen something they did not understand. And in the galaxy, fear of the unknown is the most dangerous fear of all. And so the first strikes of humanity echoed across the stars. Fleets that had ruled for centuries were gone in days. Borders once drawn with arrogance faded. Space that had been considered untouchable became silent graves. Humanity had not declared war, but the message was clear. They would not be victims again. They would not kneel again. And the galaxy was beginning to learn that silence is not peace. Silence is the moment before thunder. And thunder was coming. Fear is a strange thing in the galaxy. It travels faster than light, carried not by ships, but by whispers, carried not by evidence, but by rumor. And now fear had a new name. Humanity. At first, only merchants noticed the change. Traders who once traveled freely across human borders began refusing contracts. Captains whispered that ships which entered human space often failed to return. Some said they had seen shadows moving in the dark, shapes of ships that appeared for only a second before vanishing from sensors. Others swore they had heard voices over the comm, human voices calm and cold, warning them to turn back. Soon those whispers reached the great markets of the core worlds. There, merchants refused to trade with human colonies. They said the risk was too high, that the stars near Earth had grown dangerous. Alien politicians dismissed these fears as exaggeration, but even they began to notice the silence on their trade reports. Routes that once brought profit from human goods now lay empty. Colonies that had once sold food and minerals to half the galaxy now sold to no one. And yet humanity did not complain. They did not argue in the council. They simply withdrew deeper into their space, growing stronger behind a wall of silence. That silence terrified the galaxy more than any war cry ever could. For what was humanity building in the dark? Rumors became wild stories. Some claimed humans had discovered ancient technology from a dead race. Others said humans had built weapons that could tear stars apart. Many dismissed these as lies, but even lies carry weight when fear is strong. Soon generals began to worry. Fleets patrolling near human space reported strange readings, flickers on sensors, shadows moving faster than any known ship. Entire patrols went missing. Admirals tried to explain these disappearances, but no explanation satisfied the people. The truth was simple. Ships were gone, and humanity had not spoken a word. Finally, the Galactic Council demanded answers. Representatives from the great empires stood in the chamber, shouting accusations. "You are destabilizing the galaxy," they said. "You are using illegal weapons. You are breaking every treaty we created." The human ambassador listened in silence. His face was calm, his voice steady when he finally spoke. "We asked for respect. You gave us scorn. We asked for peace. You gave us war. You pushed us past the limit. Now you will see what that means." And with those words he left, his footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. The council erupted into chaos, but the humans did not return. They had delivered their message, and that message spread like fire across the stars. The fear deepened. Traders refused to enter human space at any price. Colonists fled border worlds that touched human systems. Even the bravest captains spoke in hushed voices about human patrols that seemed to come from nowhere, watching, warning, and then vanishing again. The galaxy had always known war, but this was different. War was loud. War was filled with glory, fleets clashing in bright fire across the void. But this was quiet. Fleets vanished without a fight. Colonies trembled without seeing an enemy. There was no battlefield, no wreckage, no chance of survival. Only silence. And silence was far more terrifying. Alien empires try to comfort themselves. They told their people that humanity was bluffing, that their power was exaggerated, that their strength could not be real. But deep down, in the hearts of their admirals and their leaders, doubt was growing. They had underestimated humans once before, and the price had been fleets lost without explanation. Could they afford to underestimate them again? Across the galaxy, children whispered about humans in the dark. Soldiers spoke of them with unease. Commanders issued warnings to avoid human space, even as they told their people not to fear. Fear had spread beyond control. For every empire that tried to mock humanity, another grew quiet, uncertain, hesitant. And humanity, still silent, still unseen, only added fuel to the fear. They did not need to shout. They did not need to show their strength. The galaxy was destroying itself with terror. Trade collapsed in half the markets. Borders shifted without battles. Empires that had once laughed at humanity now found themselves arguing with each other, unsure whether to attack or retreat. And through it all, humanity stood calm, patient, waiting. The silence was unbearable, but they let it grow because they knew what the galaxy did not. The storm had only just begun. The galaxy thought humans were hiding in the dark. The truth was far worse. Humans had become the dark, and the dark was spreading. For months, the galaxy lived in dread, waiting, whispering, watching, but seeing nothing. Alien fleets avoided human borders. Merchants turned away from profitable routes, and whole sectors of space grew silent as fear spread like disease. The great empires told themselves that humans were bluffing, that their weapons were exaggerated rumors, that their silence was nothing more than weakness disguised as strength. But deep in their hearts, they knew a truth they did not want to face. Something was coming. That truth finally arrived when an alien scouting fleet detected movement along the edge of human space. At first, they thought it was a freighter convoy, perhaps another trap, but then the scanners lit up with a reading unlike anything recorded before. A single ship emerged from the darkness, black as the void itself, edges blurred as if the vessel refused to be seen. Its size was larger than any known human design, yet its movements were graceful, precise, faster than their scanners could properly track. The scouts watched in silence, stunned, and then the ship vanished from their screens completely. Panic filled the bridge. They searched every frequency, every sensor, but the human vessel was gone. Moments later, alarms screamed as their fleet came under fire from nowhere. Beams of energy tore through shields as if they were nothing, slicing entire cruisers into pieces with surgical precision. Missiles detonated with uncanny accuracy, striking engines, weapons, command decks. Within minutes, the entire alien fleet was gone. Every ship reduced to wreckage, drifting in cold silence. Only fragments of the scouts' final recordings reached their empire, but those fragments were enough to terrify even the boldest generals. For the first time, the galaxy had seen a human warship, and it was nothing like they expected. Unlike alien vessels, which were bright and heavy and proud, human warships moved like shadows, designed for speed, for silence, for the art of striking without warning. Their weapons did not match alien patterns. They did not rely on brute force or old designs perfected over centuries. They were new, unpredictable, terrifying. Aliens had believed humans were copying their technology, but the truth was far worse. Humanity had abandoned the rules entirely. They had created something new, something the galaxy had never imagined. The recordings spread across the stars, watched in disbelief by billions. Governments tried to censor the footage, but fear cannot be contained. Ordinary people saw the black ship appear from nowhere, destroy an entire fleet, and vanish again. The whispers changed. No longer were humans seen as reckless children. No longer were they seen as weak. Now they were seen as hunters, silent predators moving in the dark. In markets, merchants refused even to speak the name of humanity, calling them instead the shadows. In military councils, admirals argued in desperation. Some demanded immediate war to crush the humans before they grew stronger. Others warned that war was suicide, that no fleet could survive against such weapons. But all agreed on one thing. The balance of power in the galaxy had changed. Humanity had crossed a line. They were no longer the youngest species to stumble into the stars. They were something else entirely, something the galaxy did not understand and could not control. On Earth, the revelation was no surprise. The humans had been preparing for this moment since the day their colony ship was destroyed. Their fleets were ready, their weapons tested, their unity unshaken. They had shown the galaxy only a glimpse of what they had built, and that glimpse was enough to spread terror across every empire. The silence was finally broken, but not with words. It was broken with action, and action spoke louder than any speech. The galaxy remembered its history then. They remembered how humanity had been underestimated before, even on their home world. They were a species that had faced extinction by nature, by predators, by their own wars. Yet each time, they had risen stronger. Fire had once been their weapon against the dark. Now, they carried a new fire, one powerful enough to burn across the stars. And the galaxy, for all its age and pride, realized something it should never have forgotten. Humans were dangerous not because of their strength, but because of their refusal to remain weak. They were dangerous because when pushed to the edge, they did not break. They changed. They adapted. They fought. And they always survived. Now the galaxy had forced them to change again. And the result was a fleet of ships and weapons unlike anything the stars had ever known. The revelation was clear. The silence was over. Humanity had stepped from the shadows, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The galaxy had always believed itself untouchable. Its oldest empires stretched across thousands of systems, their fleets vast, their weapons unmatched, their power unquestioned. They had laughed at humanity, mocked them, pushed them aside, and even murdered their people without consequence. But the laughter had ended. Now fear ruled the stars, and fear turned quickly into desperation. The first alien empire to act was one of the oldest, a race proud of its fleets and its traditions of war. Their leaders declared that humanity must be destroyed before their shadow fleets grew too strong. They called upon allies, promising glory and safety if the humans were crushed together. Soon, a vast coalition was formed, a force larger than anything seen in centuries, united not by friendship but by fear. Hundreds of warships gathered near human borders, their weapons charged, their commanders certain that sheer numbers would overwhelm whatever the humans had built. Across the galaxy, billions watched, waiting to see if this was the end of humanity's sudden rise. But the humans did not wait to be attacked. They struck first. While the coalition prepared to invade Earth, human fleets vanished from their charts. Entire task forces slipped into the dark, unseen by sensors, silent as death. Instead of defending their borders, humanity appeared in the heart of alien empires. On one world, the skies burned as human warships dropped from the void, shattering orbital defenses in minutes before vanishing again. On another, fleets protecting the capital were annihilated in a storm of weapons no alien could comprehend. Entire command structures collapsed before a single order could be given. Panic swept through the coalition. They had gathered to destroy humanity, but now their own worlds were under attack. The humans did not fight like the galaxy expected. They did not line up their fleets for glorious battles. They did not seek fair fights. They struck where they were least expected, vanishing before retaliation could come, reappearing in another sector hours later. It was not war in the traditional sense. It was extermination of power, the systematic destruction of fleets, weapons, and leadership. The coalition demanded negotiations, desperate to slow the human advance, but their messages went unanswered. Humanity was no longer speaking. They were acting, and their actions spoke more clearly than any words. Soon alien empires that had once mocked humanity were begging for protection, not from humans, but from the very coalition they had joined. No one trusted anyone anymore. Alliances crumbled as fear and betrayal spread. In every council chamber, leaders asked the same question. How could a young species defeat fleets that had ruled the stars for centuries? The answer was brutal. Humanity did not play by the rules. The galaxy had grown lazy, repeating the same strategies, the same technologies, the same wars for thousands of years. But humans were unpredictable. They had turned every insult into fuel, every wound into strength, and every failure into invention. They did not care about tradition. They cared only about survival. And survival made them dangerous beyond imagination. Across the galaxy, alien civilians began to whisper not of war, but of judgment. They said humanity was not fighting for conquest, but for vengeance. They said humanity had been forged into something more than mortal, something inevitable. They said this was the price of arrogance, the punishment for pushing a species too far. Entire colonies surrendered before human fleets even arrived, raising white flags to empty skies, begging for mercy from an enemy that was not yet there. But mercy was not part of humanity's plan. Not yet. For every destroyed colony ship, for every insult, for every laugh in the council chamber, humanity was answering now in fire and silence. Alien generals who once spoke of human weakness now begged for retreat. Admirals who once mocked human fleets now feared to speak the name at all. Leaders who once declared themselves untouchable now prayed in secret that their homeworlds would be spared. And through it all, humanity moved forward, calm, patient, unstoppable. Earth did not fall. Earth did not even tremble. Instead, alien capitals burned. Instead, alien fleets vanished. Instead, alien leaders were hunted in their own halls of power. The galaxy had prepared for a defensive war, for a desperate human attempt to protect their borders. They had not prepared for retaliation. They had not prepared for predators. Humanity had stopped asking for respect. They were taking it. And the galaxy finally understood that the silence of humanity had never been weakness. It had been warning, a warning ignored. Now the price was being paid, and the storm had only just begun. The galaxy had never seen war like this. For centuries, the great empires had fought one another in grand battles, fleets clashing under banners of pride, treaties broken and repaired, borders drawn and redrawn. But this was different. This was not a war of equals. This was a lesson. Humanity had been underestimated, mocked, pushed aside, and finally broken past its limit. Now the galaxy was learning what that truly meant. The largest coalition in history gathered its forces, desperate and afraid. Hundreds of fleets, thousands of warships, the combined strength of nearly every empire that had once ruled the stars, all brought together for one purpose: to end humanity before it ended them. They spoke of justice, of balance, of survival, but behind their words was fear, the kind of fear that drives even enemies to stand side by side. The galaxy watched as this coalition moved toward Earth, their banners shining, their leaders boasting that no young species could stand against such overwhelming force. But humanity was not waiting to be crushed. The fleets of Earth were ready, forged in silence, tested in secret, perfected in fire. And when the coalition entered human space, the trap closed. At first, the alien fleets thought themselves victorious. Their sensors showed empty systems, abandoned stations, no sign of resistance. They moved forward with confidence, deeper and deeper into the heart of human territory. And then, without warning, the shadows moved. Human warships appeared from nowhere, not dozens, but hundreds, black vessels slipping out of the void like hunters. They struck with precision, tearing into the coalition's flanks, cutting supply lines, isolating command ships. The coalition tried to regroup, but every time they gathered, the humans vanished again, only to reappear in another place, striking with weapons the galaxy still did not understand. Whole fleets crumbled without a single human loss. Panic spread faster than orders. Admirals shouted for retreat, but retreat was impossible. The humans had studied every tactic, every weakness, every flaw in the coalition strategy, and now they used them all. Minefields appeared in empty space where no mines should exist. Communication lines shattered under cyber assaults that bypassed every defense. Entire armadas found themselves blind, deaf, and helpless as the humans destroyed them piece by piece. For the first time in living memory, the galaxy saw its greatest powers humiliated. Worlds that had once commanded respect begged for mercy. Leaders who had mocked humanity now hid in fortified bunkers, praying the shadows would not fall upon their skies. And then, as the coalition lay broken, the humans appeared in the Galactic Council once more. Their ambassador stood in the center of the chamber, his face calm, his voice steady, carrying no arrogance, no cruelty, only truth. You thought we were weak. You thought we were children. You pushed us past the limit. This was your mistake. The silence in the chamber was absolute. No one dared to speak. No one dared to laugh. The galaxy had finally learned fear. But humanity did not demand tribute. They did not ask for empires to bow before them. They asked only for respect, and respect was now a currency no empire could deny them. The galaxy had seen what happened when humanity was pushed too far. They had seen what silence could create, what unity could forge, what vengeance could unleash. And they knew better than to test it again. Yet even as peace returned, whispers continued. Some said humanity had shown only a fraction of its true power. Some believed Earth still hid weapons never revealed, strategies never tested. Others believed humanity had changed forever, that once a species crosses the line of silence and survival, it can never return to innocence. Whatever the truth, one lesson was clear. The galaxy would never again underestimate humanity. They had been mocked as weak, but weakness had turned to strength. They had been dismissed as children, but children had grown into hunters. They had been silenced, but silence had become storm, and the storm had proven unstoppable. In the quiet that followed, across markets and colonies and homeworlds, one sentence echoed again and again. Never push humanity past its limit, unless you are ready to face what comes after. For those who forgot, for those who laughed, for those who believed arrogance was eternal, the ruins of fleets and the ashes of worlds stood as eternal reminders. This had been the galaxy's mistake, and mistakes are not forgiven. They are remembered.